Yes. So AQUA, the App Quality Alliance. We are an industry association. We're a not-for-profit association. We are funded by our members. We've got some pretty big names as our members. You can see them there: AT&T, Nokia, LG, Motorola, Oracle, Orange. You may not be familiar with Orange. It's a big carrier over in Europe. And Samsung and Sony. Now, all of these guys are concerned about application quality, and they were all doing things independently. And a few years ago, they all got together and decided to combine their efforts and pool them into what is now AQUA, the App Quality Alliance. So we are worldwide, not-for-profit, and our goal is to help developers further improve the quality of their mobile apps and help them gain recognition as a result of that. And how do we do this? We do this quite simply. We provide best practice guidelines, we provide application testing criteria, and we provide the quality app directory where developers can register their app and gain the app quality badge. So all of this is about, it's not just about making it pretty. We know we're not UI experts. We're not going to tell you how to design the UI. We're going to let you get on with that. We're going to let you focus on designing the UI and provide you with a lot of the things around the edges that many developers forget. And that's what you get from the best practice guidelines and the app testing criteria. Let's have a quick look at the best practice document and talk about that for a minute. This is a document. It's a PDF that you can print out from our website at appqualityalliance.org. We'll be providing the URLs later and the slides that we'll go through. And you'll be relieved to know that I don't have a huge number of slides, and I'll be doing a live demo on our website for most of the session, hopefully. So the best practice document. Yes, a guide to developing high-quality mobile applications. Now, there's it talks in a little bit of detail about 3 platforms. It talks about Android, it talks about Java, and it still talks about Symbian. Now, this is showing that we have some history and some heritage because that's where we've grown up from. AQUA itself started originally back in the days of Java applications, and we started running the Java verified program back in 2004. So our best practice document is the accumulation of a lot of years of experience from all of our members who have put together their individual experience of what goes wrong in apps in the mobile world and pulled into the best practice document all of the things that people commonly miss. And we know this is still true today because when we did some testing of the top applications a few months ago, we found even now some of the top applications in the world still have the original flaws, the basic flaws that people always make, they forget to look for. But if they'd read the best practice document before they started designing it, they may not have fallen into those traps. Simple things in there like follow how the back key works on the device, on the platform. Don't try to override it. Don't try to do something clever. It may seem very obvious, but it really does help when you actually do that. And although these things individually are obvious, there'll be a good number in there that most people won't think of unless they actually have them written down in front of them. So we go through a whole different range of areas in the best practice document. We cover the main areas that we also cover in our testing criteria. And it's everything from looking out for a long launch time when you first start the application, through to looking at consistency of the user interface, making sure that you are putting the buttons in the same place on all the different screens, for example. Again, very simple items, very easy to miss when you're in the throes of developing your application and focusing entirely on the functionality. What we've done recently with the best practice document is we've worked with AT&T and we've worked with the GSMA and we've worked with the latest Android guidelines to make sure that this is all in line and all consistent together. So we've incorporated elements of the AT&T guide for behaving well on the network, being a good network citizen. They're very concerned at the moment about network efficiency, and they're also concerned about the battery usage on devices. I think we've all had applications that we download to our devices that suck the battery away. AT&T call these zombie applications because they sit there and just absorb all the power from your device. And the way they're doing it, what they're doing wrong, is actually quite simple. It's purely down to not thinking about designing the communications of the application for a mobile world. It's not looking at simple things like caching the content, not looking at simple things like timing when you do keep alives, for example. And all of those things are covered in the best practice guidelines, and looking at ways of maximizing the efficiency of your network use for your application. Something that's worthwhile looking at and designing into your application before you start building it, because it can be expensive and costly to go back and change it later. So this is a new version released this month. We released it at Apps World, which was just 3 or 4 weeks ago, and has gone down very well so far, and seems to be well appreciated. The other thing that we do, the other main thing that we do, is our testing criteria. These are a series of tests designed to cover a whole range of areas of the behavior of the application on the device. It means essentially that we've prepared for you the extra test scripts that you need to run through, in addition to the basic testing that you will have been doing to prove the functionality of your app. Most developers are very good at doing the testing of their app for whatever it may be. If it's a share price app, they'll make sure it gets the share prices. If it's a weather app, they'll make sure you get the right weather, or a football scores app, or whatever it may be. And it's relatively straightforward because that's what you're focused on. You're focused on what the app is supposed to be doing. What you may not think of testing is what happens when the user presses lots of different things on the screen at once, or when the user removes the memory card from the device, which they do quite often, quite frequently, being irritating like that. Users do these sorts of things. So that is there's a whole range of tests, a whole range of side areas that you don't need to worry about because they're all prepared for you here. So you can see some of the areas that we include in our testing: application launch, some basic functionality testing, operation, user interface, security, network usage, localization, and more. So there's a whole range of different chapters, and we can have a look at those when we look at this shortly. So on that screen there, I think we're looking at the Java version. The Android testing criteria we have released. In fact, we've done a new release since this one. I see my slide still shows the October version. We have released a new version in February. And again, this is to accommodate feedback from our members, is to accommodate any errors and issues that they're seeing commonly in applications that they're dealing with. So our members are people who are actively working with the developers for those big organizations. They might be working in the application shop that they're running, or they might be working with recommendation engines, or they might be working with applications that the companies are commissioning and producing for whatever reason for their own customers. And what they typically do is help us with feedback on our test criteria, and on a regular basis we review it, and we will go into add sections if we need them. We'll go into look at new areas. We'll go into look at areas where there may be new common faults that we're not particularly covering well. So we're always looking for improvement. And we're always taking feedback from developers as well as the members. So everybody is welcome to help us with this one. In terms of updating it, we update it when we need to. So we had some input from one of our members recently and added some specific areas for multiplayer games, for example. We aim to update it perhaps twice a year, but more often if we find we need to, if there's something we're missing or something that some burning feedback that is coming to us. The reason we don't update it more often is because it can get confusing if there are too many different versions of it moving around. We want to make sure that it's each version is thoroughly done and is done in a way that doesn't cause confusion. The testing criteria, again, you can find that as a document online, but you can also find it as an online tool, which we'll be looking at shortly. And when we look at the online tool, we'll have a look at 2 or 3 of the tests so you can see exactly what they're like. And the thing that we launched very recently, at the back end of last year, we first launched at the Apps World in London, and re-showed again at the Apps World in San Francisco 3 weeks ago, is the Quality App Directory. So what we realized was that we had an awful lot of high-quality applications that had, with excellent functionality, that had gone through all of the test criteria and were proven to work extremely well. And what we didn't have was anywhere to show these off, to enable developers to show that they care about quality, to enable developers to put their applications in front of our members, and to enable them to show that they stand out from the crowd and that they're not one of the many thousands of developers who are just putting untested apps out for the public to test for them. So we created the Quality App Directory. We first put this out early in 2012 and had a beta trial with a bunch of developers who helped us go through the process. We took on board their feedback, revised it, and then republished in October last year. This is the directory contains details of the applications. It doesn't contain the applications themselves, so it contains the details of what you've done and how you've tested your application, and enables you to then get what we have also recently launched, a quality badge, which you can then use to publicize your application. Question about Apple. Today our testing criteria and our Quality App Directory is focused pretty much on Android right now. The reason we focused on Android initially was because it needed it, because there was less curation of the shop. There's no curation of the shop. They don't care what you put into it. You can put anything you like into it. It doesn't even need to work as an application. You can put it in. Unlike Apple or indeed Microsoft, who both do quite a lot of testing at the gate. One thing we are considering, and we're interested in your feedback in, is whether there is a use in having an Apple set of testing criteria, which should enable developers to test their applications to a good standard, to make sure that they're not going to fail the Apple tests on a technical basis. We can't guarantee that it won't be thrown out by them on a content basis, or indeed on the technical basis today. Apple aren't members of the organization right now, but we're looking at putting together such a pre-submission checklist, which should help you. So hopefully that will be a helpful thing. Right, in the Quality App Directory, I mentioned about showing what sort of testing you had done to that. Clearly, the first place that you can do is using the test criteria that we have, using the online test criteria, or indeed the paper-based one. You can do testing yourself. That's a good start. and that's absolutely great. And if you do that, we will give you a status of self-verified. This means that you have signed up, you've said, I've run through the test criteria, I've tested the app, and I'm fairly sure that it works. And I'm happy to stand up and say that it works. That's great, but there is no substitute to having a third party actually take your application and put it on a device that isn't the one that you've been using in your lab to develop the app, and then on perhaps a network that isn't the same one, or basically to take it into a more a representative situation for a customer as if they were using it. So we have an agreement with 4 different test houses to actually provide such services directly for developers. So the next level up in terms of quality is to have your application tested by an independent test house running through the same set of test scripts, so there really is no excuse for not passing first time. And that is the first thing that you come to that actually costs anything in our program. Everything else is free to developers to use. But the test houses are actually putting people on the street to actually do the testing, and they've got the handsets and they're doing all that for you. And so you will need to pay the test house to actually do that testing. This is not money that goes into AQUA's hands, it's entirely free from AQUA, but you do need to pay the test house. So that test will cost you somewhere around $200, perhaps $250, depending on the complexity of your application. But once you've done that, you get your application up to test house verified, which says it has been independently tested. Now, interestingly, this is the first level at which some of our members are looking at applications and are keen to take them on and keen to take them into their distribution channels, because what this means is they don't need to retest these applications. They might have a look at them, they might quickly give them the one over, just check that they're happy with them, normally more for content purposes rather than doing the technical testing. But once they've done that and they've actually done their extra tests and they've looked at it, then if they do pick it up, you can go to this final level, which is AQUA member verified, which means not only have you gone through the independent testing by the test house, you've also gone through whatever extra testing one of our members may have done to prove that they're happy to take your application, put it on their devices, distribute it through their store, put it in their recommendation engine, or whatever it may be that they've done, and they will then enable your app to go up to AQUA member verified. So that's all very good, all very straightforward. And there's another thing that I talked about that we were launching, and the latest seal that you can now put onto your application once you have gone through that test house verification is you can use our newly launched quality badge. And the quality badge looks a bit like this. This is obviously a sample one. When you put your application into the quality app directory, you'll be able to download the real badge that will link back to your entry in the directory. And that's an image you can then use on all of your promotional material for your application. You can use it in the shop. You can use it in anything that you have on your website, for example, or any other place that you are promoting your app, to show that you have an application that is of good quality, that will not crash when it's put onto a user's device, that you have tested it thoroughly, and it is a recognized a quality level, and you can see recognized by some fairly significant names in the industry as a mark of quality. Okay, so just a couple more slides. I did mention that we had been running this program for a number of years, and one of the things that we still run is Java Verified. Now, believe it or not, we're actually doing more Java applications now through Java Verified than we have ever done in the past. Although nobody talks about it, there is still a big market for Java applications. particularly through Nokia, and they're distributing an awful lot of Java applications out into emerging markets and the wider world. And if you still have your Java applications, it's still worthwhile bringing them forward. So that's kind of cool. Right, so what I think I'd like to do now is move on to a bit of a live demo and take you to the website. We're going to go to the appqualityalliance.org website and have a quick look at that, and then we're going to go across to the Quality App Directory and briefly run through what you need to do to submit the details of your app in the Quality App Directory. And along the way we'll have a look at the online testing criteria tool, because of course before you submit your app you have to go through the testing and have done that. So let me just see if I can switch across to share the other screen. And it should just be there. And if by magic it's switched across to the website. Excellent. Make that a bit bigger so you can see it. So we're now looking at the App Quality Alliance website at appqualityalliance.org. Here you can find a lot of the background information that I've been talking through. You can find FAQs, you can find details of all of the different members and what they're doing, and what's going on with the App Quality Alliance and our latest releases. Here you can also find the best practice documents, which you can download and go through, and it really is a good thing to read, just to sit down and go through as you're starting the design process for your application. And it's true across all the different platforms, whilst it has specific details in there about Android, Java, and Symbian. The principles hold true across all of the different platforms. So what we're going to do is, we're not going to download the Android testing criteria. We're going to come across to the Quality App Directory information, and here you can find links to the Quality Application Directory. And what we're going to do is have a look at the site and look at some of the online testing criteria. So to get to the online testing criteria, you do need to log into the site. It's very quick and easy to create a login. And it's your email and a password that you need to log into. So I've created my account as a developer, and what I see is a dashboard that allows me to do two things. One is to work with the apps that I have in the Quality App Directory, upload new details of them, and the other is to go to the online testing criteria tool, which is what we're going to do right now. So you can see I have here a number of bits of information at the top of the screen telling me what I can do. Links back to explain the testing criteria. And I've got a list down below of all of the apps that I have put through the testing criteria here, and I can produce reports for how they fared, whether there were any issues, and what those issues were as I went through and tested them before. So this is allowing you to automate the administration of the testing. Is not automating the testing itself. So you're still running through the tests manually, but this allows you to manage the tests that you do, and to look at the results of them. So if we go in to test a new application, so here we have to decide what sort of test that we're going to do. The testing criteria, the definition of the different tests was on the previous page. It would have been helpful to show you that first, but I'll just describe it to you briefly now. A simple app we define as one that doesn't require difficult permissions. So it's doing something quite straightforward. It's probably communicating back to a web service, but it's not using anything more complicated than that. It might be a simple, I don't know, sports information app, as opposed to a complex app that might be something more complicated. Maybe it integrates with other things, maybe it uses personal information on the device, maybe it gets maybe something like, I don't know, a mileage tracker for or expense tracker for business use, where there's more to it. It's based on different permissions that you need to ask for in Android, and there's a list in the test criteria about which permissions define the difference between a simple app test or a complex app test. So let's look at the complex app test, because that actually has all of the different testing cases in there. And let's put we just simply put in a name, and of course we need to know which version that we're testing here. And the other thing that we note here is which device we're testing it on. You may well want to run through a number of smoke tests on a number of different devices. Smoke test, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, is an old engineering phrase. When they built pipes, before they put high pressure water through them, they pumped smoke through them. And if smoke came out, you know that you hadn't put the pipes together right and you hadn't made a nasty mess. So a smoke test is a very simple test that allows you to check that everything is plumbed correctly and connected up properly. So I think we'll use my favorite device of the moment, which is the Samsung S3. You can see I've used that before. And now we're going to go into start testing. And what we'll see when the next screen comes up is all of the different test criteria listed down the left-hand side. If I make the screen a bit, probably make it smaller for you. Okay. All of the different test criteria listed down the left-hand side, and then each individual test is then listed here on the page. I just scroll down the page a little bit so you can see more of the test itself, and that's the header. There we go. So this is the very first basic test. Will your application install to a device? Okay, may sound obvious, but you've probably spent all of your development side loading it onto the device, and of course it's going to work. So this may be the first time you actually think, oh yes, I better install it, just like they would do from the shop, just like a customer would do. And you need to make sure that it doesn't do any nasty messages, it doesn't stop for something else, and you'd be surprised how many applications actually don't install cleanly. And if your app doesn't install cleanly, they're simply going to reject it. On the Android Google Play, if the user doesn't like an app, they can simply, within 15 minutes, ask for a refund, no questions asked, that's it. So you have 15 minutes maximum to make your first impression. And if they reject your app and they throw it back and give you a bad rating, that's the start of a nasty downward spiral. So this is a really critical time that you have to get things right. So in order to use this, you would set your app up somewhere, you would download it over the air. Again, fairly straightforward to do. And you get the testing instructions here for how you do that and what you need to do. And you get the results. Now, each of the tests has the same structure, a description, a set of notes, testing steps, and then a result. And then you get, at the bottom, pass or fail. Now, you'll notice at the top it says that this is a critical level test. We actually have two levels of test because it's one thing that we learned from the Java verified world, that it can be a bit harsh to fail the entire test just because there's a few spelling mistakes in a menu. So we have both critical level tests and we have warning level tests. A warning level, which we'll have a look at in a minute, isn't just pass or fail. You can have different levels of warning. But there's a scoring system, so you can have only so many warnings within your test results before your overall testing fails itself. So we'll we'll pretend that we've just done the testing here, and we'll say that we have passed. So we click that, and then we submit. And we'll see that the system automatically then moves on to the next one, and so on down the list here. So we haven't got time to go through all of these different ones, and I'll just scroll down to some interesting ones. Let's see what we've got. So an interesting one here, again, very simple, very straightforward. You need to check your Android application on different screen sizes. For your Apple applications, you've clearly got the 2, or is it 3 now? You've got your iPhone size, you've got your iPad size, and your Mini. But Android screen sizes are a lot of different ones, and you have to work it and check that it works on the different sizes. Again, once you look at it, once you read it, it's actually very obvious, very straightforward. Things like in the result, the application should use the whole of the screen area. When I first downloaded, I think it was that Bejeweled. Nice game, it's been around for a long time. Whoever it was who clearly taken it from the Java world and put it into the Android world, it didn't use the whole of the screen area. It didn't rotate properly. It would have failed this test. Simple stuff. Not looking at design principles, not looking at telling you how to design your user interface, just making sure that those things that you might assume, of course it will work. Somebody has actually sat down and tested that it will work. Let's have a look at a few more of the user interface ones. Consistency. We have a lot of debate about consistency, but it is very important for users. The application UI should be consistent and understandable throughout. The layout, the soft buttons, the sounds are clear and understandable. It is slightly open to interpretation, which is why this one is a warning level test. So you'll see the result of the test can be a clear pass. It can be, it's annoying to use. There are minor inconsistencies that are just annoying. There are inconsistencies that make it difficult to use, or perhaps even impossible to use. Now we think those are fairly clear. Again, they can be slightly subjective, but they are fairly clear, and if you decide that you're going to have an inconsistency, you will put a reason in here. Inconsistent use of sounds is confusing, for example, and then you submit that. Now you can see as we're going through, up here on the right hand side, it's telling you how much of the testing is completed just purely in numerical terms. It doesn't know how long it's going to take to run each of these, but it does give you an indication as to how much is done. So let's come down and look at one more of the UI. Let's have a look at, for example, which one should we look at? Error messages. Error messages are great. When I used to be a programmer, I thought my error messages were perfect. They told me everything I needed to know to troubleshoot the error, and that was fine. But actually, they didn't mean anything to the users, and the users saw these error messages and they frightened them because they thought something really horrible was going on. Whereas in fact, I was just trying to, as a programmer, make sure I had enough information to troubleshoot any faults that might have happened. So here we say the error messages must be clearly understandable, explain to the user the nature of the problem, explain what action needs to be taken, not display technical terms and understandable by the general public. Again, another warning level test, but one that people don't think about testing. They really don't. Just don't do it. Okay, right. So we have a few minutes left. So let us now finish where we are in the testing for now. You can see I've come back to my list of tests that are ongoing. You can see that I've got 2% completed on the test that we were just starting. If we had gone through the full test, it would be coming up with either a pass or a fail, and we can generate a report that will show a listing of all of the tests that were carried out on that application. And if there are any comments put against it, any critical level failures, where there'd be a comment or any comments on a warning level, they will appear on the report as well. So you have a complete reporting tool you can then use in your development process to feedback. If you're not doing all the development yourself, you can feedback to make sure that all these faults are getting fixed. So let us assume that we've gone through, we have done all the testing ourselves, and we have fixed any problems, and we have an application that we now think is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to add it into the Quality App Directory. So we're going to our section here for apps, and each of these areas are drop-downs, and you can see different things in here. You can change details about your company, your organization. You can put some information in here that is highlighted on the app directory, which is obviously searchable by Google. And when somebody Googles your name, they will see this is one of the things that comes up with a nice bit of advertising for your company. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to add an app. Very simple, very easy, it'll take less than 5 minutes. So we'll add in here the PrettyMobile app. And you will put in some sort of description here that describes what your app is here. So this is the best UI in the world. Is clearly a pretty UI, or whatever it may be, except I can't spell. And that's fine. So we'll put in a description. We have a limit of how long it can be. You then need to say what languages it's available in. Now, clearly we have a global audience for this directory, and we have companies distributing applications that need to be in English or in French or in whatever it may be. So we specify what languages our application supports. We also say what distribution channel it may be in. And in this case, I'm going to say that this app is going to be in the AT&T App Center and in Google Play. Then we say which version of the Android platform we have used to develop on. I can see the screen is flashing black. Sorry about that. So we'll say in this case we developed it on Android 4.0. The reason we put the platform in is to make sure that we can pick up the appropriate devices. So if you say you've developed this on Android 4.0 and you've tested it on an Android 2.0 phone, clearly there's something wrong. So the final part in this section is we're going to say how we've coded the device, what we've done to actually make it work, what sort of screen sizes it will support, and what we've done in terms of the attributes. Now these are standard definition in Android. They're defined in the Android developers area. What we're saying here is that we've done it for an extra large screen size or a large screen size. Those are the 4 classifications of screen size that you would support with an Android device, albeit the actual screen size may vary. It's still within the definition of an extra large, for example. We'll say that we're happy in landscape and in portrait mode. Clearly some applications are just one or just the other. So that's it for this page. Next we will add in the icon that we're going to use to advertise this for this app. I don't. You can probably see all this now, can't you? So let's come out of this. Let's go to where the icons are, which are somewhere in here. And I should stop sharing for a minute, but never mind. I can't find it because they're in this one. no, I can't see them there either. Let me just, how can I stop sharing this so I can find these things? Okay. This is annoying when a demonstration goes, right, let me calmly go through this and find the icons that I did prepare earlier. There we are, images. And I'm going to use that one. And then we simply click upload. Right, so it's now uploaded the icon. So the next step is to say what device we've actually tested this application on. So remember, we have to have tested it. This has to be a tested application before it goes up. So we're going to pick a device. Now the list of suitable devices here has been worked out from the platform and the attributes that we gave earlier. And I'm going to say it's the Samsung Galaxy S3, which I think is this one. Aha. I grab it, I plonk it in the box over here. Now I may also have tested on other devices as well, and have done perhaps a smoke test on other devices just to make sure that it works nicely on those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yep, well, we tested it on the Sony mobile Xperia device, and we plop that in there. Now we can list a range of different devices. I think I've dropped it en route. So I'll just pick up this one here because it's on the same screen. We'll drop that in there. And yeah, I think I have to do that first. There we go. Okay, no, I'm using the wrong part of the screen. That's the one. Sorry about that. To make that clearer for the instructions on the screen, or read the instructions. So you can add in a whole range of different devices that if you have tested it on a number of different devices there. So we'll just leave it for the 2 for now. And we'll come down to the bottom of the screen and we'll click next. Now you select a quality level. So this is where you can choose whether you have gone for self-verified, whether you have taken it to a third party and had it test house verified. For simplicity, we'll just say self-verified now, because that is then the end of the process. So now that that app has been put there, it's been put into the directory, it's in there as self-verified, and I can have a look at what the entry looks like. So you can see we've got the description there. We've got a company. I've pushed in as a company called Moexco, and you can see all the other apps from that company, that test company. You can see that it's self-verified. You can see some information about what that means. You can see when it was created. You can see the image that we uploaded there. So it's a record of the app, and this is where you can have that description. Okay, we are now at time check, which is pretty much about the right time when I wanted to draw to a close.